Gen Z are an employer's nightmare. My 20s put them to shame. Like most of my peers, I hustled at all hours for my career, a far cry from this minimum effort generation and their lazy girl jobs. This is Sophia. She's a British journalist and author at The Telegraph. A few days ago, she wrote this article about how she out-hustled Gen Z because they care more about work-life balance than ours. This article is written from the standpoint of what feels like an overused movie character. When a wealthy person states something condescending, thinking everyone will agree with them, but just proceeds to make a fool of themselves, that's this article. Honestly, the title of this article should be How My Silver Spoon Put Them to Shame. Before I show you the article, I really think you need to know where she comes from because it really adds context to how tone-deaf this article is. Let me put this into perspective. Miss Sophia Money-Coutts here, yep, that's how you say her name. She's the daughter of Lord Crispin James something the 9th Baron. Her family founded the Coutts Private Bank, and if you've never heard of that bank before, it's because you don't have enough money to bank with them. You see, that bank currently serves some of the wealthiest British families that exist, including the royal family. Anyways, her father, Sir Crispy here, married a woman named Lucy Deeds, who was, fun fact, a master of foxhounds. Like her mom would be the person who managed the dogs and teams that go hunting and killing foxes just for fun. Think rich British people sports. You know, the ones that were only outlawed in like the 2000s? Anyway, Sophia's mom was the daughter of a man named Bill Deeds, who happened to be a longtime editor at The Telegraph, where she currently works. So after reading the title, you can kind of see where this is going.
So, Deeds, what's new?
I found out I have an uncle, but he died.
Oh, that's too bad.
He gave me $40 billion, though.
Well, that's nice.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you go and spend it all on some fancy record player.
Oh, and her brother, I guess, is a magician. Actually seems kind of cool, to be honest. But speaking of magic, today's sponsor is Magical. If you're a fan of the anti-hustle, here's a tool to make your life even easier. They're a free-to-download Chrome extension which helps you get stuff done. Magical's all about working smarter, not harder. Unlike Sophia thinks, your value is not measured by how many hours you sit in a chair. We're living in the era of hotkeys and AI, and that's where Magical steps in to help you automate. With Magical, you can free up hours and hours of your time, which is almost as good as inheriting a bank, right? Need to fire off a quick email while you're overemployed and anti-hustling at the same time? Put a couple forward slashes and watch your words appear like, well, magic. Maybe you're trying to network like an old money baron, but without the effort. Magical's AI reply feature works across Gmail, LinkedIn, and even Facebook Messenger. And let's not forget about the transfer feature because it's pretty mind-blowing. For example, when I was doing research on this video, I had tons of Wikipedia tabs open. I didn't know how to pronounce her last name. I didn't know that there were 9 barons, and I didn't know that this was also a bank for really, really rich people. But instead of sifting through 15 different tabs about rich British people, you can just click this Magical button, and then you can click Transfer to, New Spreadsheet, and you can take all these other tabs with it. And now I only have one page with all the information I need to do my research off of. Gone are the days of individually typing out thank you or let's touch base. Go ahead and give yourself that break you deserve. Click my link down in the description or go to getmagical.com and download the free Chrome extension. Who knows, with all that time you'll save, maybe you'll write the next scathing article on generational work habits. Or just enjoy your life. Your call. Thanks again to Magical for sponsoring today's video. Now, I want to show you a podcast that I found called What It's Like to Be Sophia Money-Coutts, where she bobs and weaves questions better than a lightweight boxer. The way she does it is hilarious.
You don't come from a background of journalism or even a creative background. I think your family's into banking.
On my mum's side, a journalist.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mad, crazy name, obviously Money-Coutts indicates sort of banking background. And that was like the family thing centuries ago, it was the bank.
Are you sure it was centuries ago? Because when I pull up the Coutts Bank website here, it looks like I can become a client right now. All I need to do is have £1 million in investments or $3 million in deposits. It's simple, really. But this was centuries ago. It's unrelated now. Just skip on to your journalism. To the part where she's careful about how she doesn't want to talk about being a journalist because of nepotism running wild in the industry, and then proceeds to talk about how she comes from a long line of journalists that are famous, and it's just really, yeah.
My uncle Jeremy became a journalist and his sons, my cousins, are now journalists. So on my mum's side, they're a journalist, but I suppose that, yes, of course, it might have opened doors for me, but I'm always trying to be a bit careful about sounding sort of too spoiled. You get accused so much of nepotism in this industry that in how I've got to where I've got to with journalism, because I hope that, yes, of course, it might have opened doors for me, but I hope that like a little bit of my own talent has got me there as well, if you see what I mean.
Editor Josh here chiming in for just a second. You're telling me that you convinced someone that wasn't a friend or a family member to give you a job and pay you to write about these topics? It's true, we millennials have never learned how to keep house. At the grand age of 39, I finally cleaned my windows. Why didn't I do this before? Which millennials? Why are you speaking for an entire generation? I learned how to keep house at a very young age. It's clear from your background that you would probably have no need. If you think that's bad, here's a sentence in the article. After several weeks of deliberating about whether to go to Google for a window cleaner, I decided to clean them myself. Not all millennials do that. Not all Gen Z people do that. That's more of a privileged person thing. I don't believe it's a huge exaggeration to say most of us haven't kept house before. We've likely grown up with parents or even cleaners keeping things tidy. Like, just stop. Just stop typing. No. Here's another article that's just dripping with excess snootiness. All this fuss over the PM's pool is missing the point. Indoor pools are, quite frankly, vulgar. The upper class prefer a freezing outdoor pond. Indoor pools are, quite simply, festering hot tubs designed to show you have money to burn. If this is what you came in early and stayed late to get better at writing about, then this is the joke of the century. Gatekeeping indoor and outdoor pools. I'm not convinced that someone saw value in paying you to do this. I mean, look at some of the other articles she has. I was raised in Land Rovers. Can I grow to love something else? Like, didn't ask. David Cameron's 25,000-pound shepherd's hut looks awfully common now. I read some of those articles like 5 times, and I still have trouble understanding why anyone would care. All right, back to the article. So, she hustled all the way up to Grandpa's company by using doors that open from family connections, not nepotism, and then writes an article about how she out-hustles all these lazy girl jobs, which I think is interesting because if you go to her website and her biography section really quick, you can scroll down to where she talked about working as the features director at this company for 5 years, where she wrote about Dukes and Labradors and Prince Harry's love life, while also working on her first novel. That's her out-hustling Gen Z, putting them to shame, writing about Prince Harry's love life and dogs. The lack of self-awareness here, again. You don't have to be smart to be posh. Proving that over and over. She has a picture of her early attempts at writing. I don't know if this is true, but it would make sense if it is. Today, my family and I went to the Gold Cup final of the polo. There was an Indian princess who gave the cup to the winners. Again, this is interesting to me because I wasn't at any golden cups with any princesses or princes. I was learning how to clean my room, you know, the thing that you claim we all don't know how to do. So now that I've properly filled you in on who she is and where she's from, let's hear what the silver spoon sounds like when it taps to make an announcement. Have you heard of the phrase anti-hustle? I hadn't until this week, the sheltered being that I am, but apparently it's quite common now and increasingly used to refer to job adverts that promote a work-life balance. They're anti-hustle, you see, because they don't advocate a ferocious, exhausting kind of labor. Instead, they offer a role which allows you to skip merrily from the office at 5 p.m. No hustle required. How come hustle only seems to apply before working hours and after working hours? You can't hustle while you're actually at work and just get more done. You have to be there. You have to be around with your butt in the seat so you can be seen, because managers have problems with object permanence. According to a new survey, the number of anti-hustle job adverts has shot up over 30% since the pandemic, with many more of them now emphasizing their work-life balance to entice younger workers who won't tolerate the sort of hours that Scrooge went in for. Man, for someone that has a name like you, to mention Scrooge, I feel like your name's more on the money. Why don't they want to work long hours? Is it because productivity is not related to hours? Is it because work is an activity, a behavior, not necessarily a location? Or is it more than likely they just won't get anything if they work those extra hours? No compensation, no rewards, nothing, just more work. It chimes with what I keep hearing from my peers, that Gen Z, the 20-somethings coming up the ranks behind us, are increasingly aware of their rights and exercising them. Why is that phrased as if it's a bad thing? They don't want to work long days and know that their employers can't make them. They want a life outside the office. They are, in other words, anti-hustle. You see how laughable this all is now, especially when you know her background. If you would like a life outside the office, because remote work just doesn't exist. Even though she works at home alone as a writer, as it says on her page, if you want a life outside the office, you're anti-hustle. It's similar to the viral phrase lazy girl jobs, which a 26-year-old coined on TikTok last year to describe decently paid jobs which required minimum input and maximum flexibility. To which I would say, well, didn't we all want a life outside the office when we were in our 20s? But I want never gets. That's not true. You just couldn't figure it out. And it's a lot easier to point the finger at other people and blame them for being lazy than, saying, I wish I was smarter. And, you're smarter than I was. Nah, don't look inward. Look outward. They're lazy. You out-hustled them. To an almost pathetic extent. I did everything that was asked of me. I made 42 billion cups of coffee. I bought my boss's tights. I trialed Beyonce's maple syrup diet and Madonna's cardio regimen. I stayed late and came in early, extremely early some days, once at around 4 a.m., having spent the night loitering in a West End club, trying to winkle out a quote from the son of a recently disgraced MP. It's like UK Carrie Bradshaw. Almost hear Sarah Jessica Parker's voice in my head reading this, like when it narrated the transitions of the scene in the show. A few years later, working for a different newspaper, I arrived at 7 a.m. and left at 10 p.m. most days. If I ate from the canteen and didn't leave the building at lunch, I didn't see much daylight during the winter, but it's what I felt required to do to make a success of the chance I'd been given. Plenty of wannabe journalists have swapped places in an instant. I didn't want to be replaceable. Congratulations on chasing the carrot on a stick, but I have some news. It's not up to you if you're irreplaceable or not. It's up to the boss. Unless you own the company, unless you have a controlling stake, it's really not. I'm just going to skip this middle section. It's boring. Contrast that with the situation now. now. A friend who works in publishing recently told me it's getting increasingly hard to find employees who will help book at launches in the evening because the junior staff in her office down tools at 5 p.m. She says it herself, I've been to quite a few book launches and they're not all glamour. She says, presumably you might be interested in going to a few and learning about the process of ushering a book into this world. How are you going to advance if you aren't willing to work a bit of overtime? Do you want a job or a career? There's just no motivation for employees to play this game as much if they're not in control of moving up. And more people are realizing it. It's just a game of what narcissistic personality traits do you need to appease to be able to get that promotion and stop chasing the carrot on a stick until you get the next promotion. I'm just going to skip the rest because I've had enough of her snootiness. If those coming after us are changing workplace attitudes, do some of us feel aggrieved because of the effort we put in, or is it jealousy that they're somehow so assertive? I can't imagine having the self-assurance at work 15 years ago to pack up my desk at 4:59 and stroll out guilt-free. And yet I would still humbly suggest that if you have any ambition, you need to do the time. If you want to do the time, do it for something for yourself. Learn a new skill, try to make a side hustle, whatever it is. Spend it with your family. I mean, more gatekeeping. I mean, she cares about what type of pool you have at your house, if it's indoor or outdoor, and she makes opinions on what's being posh and how cool, like, who cares? So because she didn't have boundaries 15 years ago when she was working her way up, that means she out-hustled all of Gen Z and put them to shame. I'm not sure why people like this are constantly given platforms to say this dumb stuff, but I appreciate the content nonetheless. And if you do as well, then hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to see more of it. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. Oh, and if you have anything you'd like me to take a look at or showcase on the channel, then you can email me, Instagram, Discord, however you want to do it. The links for all of those are down in the description as well. Having said all that, I hope everyone's doing well, and I'll see you in the next one.